Marilyn Monroe's bedroom. Stage right, Arthur Miller's study. Fall, 1952.
Kiss on the hands of Mary, like continental, the time Dear Miss Bauer, my work on the play about the Salem witch hunt continues. I'm done with the draft, but I am still at a loss as to what to call it. I was thinking of Harlot's Cry, or If We Could Speak, but right now I'm leaning towards those familiar spirits, or possibly the Crucible, which is a vessel made to endure great heat and pressure. Also, it's used to pulverize things. Mary says I should call it Death of the Salem. Death of the Salem. That's funny, I didn't think Mary had it in her.
Mary says I should call it Death of Salem. I must think that's very clever. For a long time, I wasn't sure I could pull this play off, but Gadget's testimony last spring got my juices flowing again. At first, I was inclined to forgive and accept. After all, he was in a terrible situation. But Gadget could have broken that blacklist if he stood his ground. Instead, he groveled. And his groveling empowered those bastards even more. My man Proctor is racked with guilt, not for consorting with Satan, which of course he has never done, but for betraying his wife and then for humiliating her with his infidelity is made public.
Again with guilt. Art, you're becoming a Jewish cliché.
It is his guilt that provokes him and confess to witchcraft. At some unconscious level, Proctor feels his confession will expiate his betrayal of Elizabeth.
Don't count on it.
Of course, it will also preserve his life, for with confession comes official forgiveness and the opportunity to get on with his life. He can go back to farming or directing Hollywood movies, whatever. Besides, what is the big deal after all? As Proctor tells Elizabeth, nothing that was not already rotten long before is spoiled by giving them this lie.
Well, he's got a point there. In the long run, futile gestures are just futile.
But in the long run, Proctor is a good man and can only dissemble so much. For it's not enough that he testify against himself. No, the inquisitors insist that he implicate others, even the saintly Rebecca nurse. He must name names, but now he refuses to cooperate further.
I can see the nobility in that. He's protecting somebody who's innocent, but what if she weren't so innocent? Would his refusal still be so noble? Answer me that, Mr. Playwright.
If only Gadge could have been strong enough to take a stand like Proctor's, instead of just wanting to get on with his life. It was not his duty to be stronger than he was. The government has no right to require anyone to be stronger than he is. But still, one can only wish that Gadge had more mettle. This crazy period will pass, and Gadge may live to regret this testimony.
Gadge may live to regret this testimony. So, Miss Bauer, what do you think? I think Joe DiMaggio is a lot less complicated and a lot more fun. People should just do what they want and move on. I don't understand all this nonsense about guilt and remorse. Who is it?
Who do you think?
Gadge, come in.
Your roommate let me in. Are you expecting someone else?
No, I was just reading a letter from Art about his new play.
Oh, you mean the one set in Salem? He told me a little about it last spring. That was a lifetime ago. I take it this play is his penance to Mary for being tempted by the likes of you. Nothing like public atonement to purge the soul. Art should have been a Catholic. He'd have loved the Middle Ages. Instead of writing plays, he could have marched through the streets wearing a hair shirt, waving himself as a flagellant. His groveling is disgusting.
I think so too. Say, I've got some great news.
What?
I've been offered a starring role in a new musical. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Howard Hawk is directing. Howard Hawk! Can you believe it? This is
I've had good news, too. I've been talking with Bud Schulberg, my fellow collaborator, as Art Scrod calls us. He's got a fine idea for a story about a longshoreman who stands up to the mob. I read the first draft last week. Schulberg's calling the movie The Golden Warriors. But I think On the Waterfront might be better.
Wasn't that what you and Art were going to do in the hub?
There's some overlap, but Schulberg's take is totally different. Art's guy, Ferrero, was going to be a martyr. Art's into martyrdom. It's his Catholic streak. The union bosses kill him for challenging their power, Ferrero, not Art, and nothing changes. The bad guys are still in charge, and the workers remain under their thumb. It's a tragedy. Art's into tragedy. It's because of all that guilt. But Schulberg's story is about a man whose real act of courage comes when he repudiates the code of silence and informs on Johnny Friendly, the union boss, who sold Terry out and killed his brother.
Johnny Friendly. That's a funny name.
Schulberg likes to introduce irony from time to time.
I like irony.
Everybody on the wharf calls Terry a rat and a stool pigeon, but in the long run, Terry testifies before a federal commission. And because he does, Terry makes his slice of America a better place. Not like our smart Ferrero, who just dies for his sins. Schulberg's story is about triumph and change. It's not a tragedy that celebrates impotent martyrdom all in the name of truth. Just like Art martyrs himself with Mary, and then nothing changes between him and you.
You know, Joe DiMaggio's been after me. I never thought that I could go for a job, but there's something a little shy about him. I like that, you know? He's very considerate. Plus, they don't call him Joltin' Joe for nothing. He's a real change from Art, that's for sure.
Joe DiMaggio? He's no martyr, he's a winner.
You and Art are really duking it out, aren't you? Art lands a big blow with the crucible, and then you strike back with On the Waterfront. It's a real knockout. And I have a ringside seat. All I need is a mug of beer and a hot dog to cheer you two heavyweights on. Oh, Norma Jean could have never imagined it.
My waterfront's gonna pulverize Art's crucible.
Oh, you make it sound so virile.
It is, but it's not right.
Art would never describe it in that way.
Art feels he needs to suppress his virility, to control it and constrain it in order to be moral and civilized. That's where all his dad's guilt comes from. That's why he's in New York now with Mary, who can't stand him, instead of here banging you. But me, I don't believe in holding back. In art or in life.
Don't I know it?
By the way, your old friend Harry Cohn's on board, especially now that Art doesn't have anything to do with it. Who needs that Tommy Pinto anyway? Schulberg's play is 10 times better and 100 times more American. It'll take another year before we even get to production, but it's gonna be a winner. I can feel it.
Oh, gosh, that's great!
It'll give me a chance to tell Art and all his liberal pals to stick their sanctimonious superiority up their ass. Who the hell are they to judge me? The real act of courage is telling the truth, not hiding in the shadows. There's a part at the end when Terry screams at Friendly, "I'm glad what I done! Do you hear me? Glad what I done!" Well, that's exactly how I feel. They can go fuck themselves.
Oh, I love it when you get all righteous and indignant. It turns me on.
Well, then come on, baby, let's screw.
They embrace and fall into bed. Blackout. Act 2, Scene 2. Stage left. Marilyn Monroe's hotel suite. In addition to Miller's prominently displayed photograph, the room features a bar and posters from Monroe's films. Stage right is Miller's study. June 11, 1955.
Dear Miss Bauer, it has been some time since we have corresponded. Almost 3 years. I was finishing up the Crucible when I wrote my last letter. Since then, a lot of water has passed along the waterfront. My marriage with Mary lives along. Yours to Joe DiMaggio has come and gone. I'm sorry for that. I have always wished you happiness and contentment, and most of all, love.
I know you have, but you can never give me yours. Not completely.
Now, who left this mess in the living room?
On the other hand, you're now a star. You had just begun rehearsing Gentlemen's Prefer Blonde when I last heard from you. What a delight that movie was. Although Mary refused to see it and disapproved my going with her, you have such a fine talent for comedy. Now, with 7 each year, you've taken the world by storm. The reviews are fantastic, and it looks like it will burn up the box office. It seems imprudent to go on opening night, so I waited a week and saw it last night. I loved it.
Oh, I hoped you would.
Congratulations, too, for taking on the studios and starting up your own production company. It's a gutsy move, but I've always thought you were a gutsy gal. I still laugh when I imagine you turning down Harry Cohen's seduction ploy ever so lightly. Will your wife be joining us?
No, he's a prick. They all are. Who needs them anyway?
Of course I'm going, but your father won't be able to make it. He's got some important theater thing to go to. He says he'll make it up to you.
And now, at the height of your fame, it would be so easy to fall into predictable roles that you and a bundle of money, but to reduce you to a caricature. But no, you refuse to sell yourself out like that, and good for you. Must have been extremely hard to show up as just another student at the studio and submit to criticisms from your classmates. All of them would-be performers while you're a star. So I admire your humility and your commitment to developing your craft.
Great. Arthur Miller admires me.
No, I don't know how.
And now you're living in New York. Of course, I knew that you've been studying with Strasberg at the Actors Studio since January, but I didn't know you'd be at his little soiree last week. What a fortunate coincidence that I chose that night to come out of my shell and be a social again. Although Freud maintains there are no coincidences, who am I to argue with Freud?
Indeed. Who can argue with Freud?
The Strasberg parties are always nice, with stimulating guests. But I've never been more stimulated than when I saw you standing there alone, sipping your orange juice with vodka.
My heart stopped when I saw you. Of course, I knew better than to lead on.
I'm just finishing my new play about the waterfront. A View from the Bridge. The main character is a tragic hero, a good but flawed man who falls from fortune due to a weakness in his character.
Gadge always said that you were drawn to tragedy. What's the fun in that?
The narrator serves like a chorus, observing helplessly as Eddie moves inexorably to his fate. I think all the great tragedies make us feel a sense of helplessness, like we're watching a train wreck happen in slow motion and there's nothing that we can do to stop it. If only we could grab a fellow in his lapels and shake some sense into him. Or Gadge, but we can't.
I wish someone would grab you by your shoulders and shake some sense into you and that ridiculous marriage of yours.
I don't think he can make it then either. He has his session with his shrink on Tuesday afternoons, remember?
I know it's your total dedication to pursuing the truth that so attracts me to you, but art, dearest, can't you ever just let yourself enjoy life without seeking the dark and disturbing sides all the time? Those demons will leap out and grab you by the throat sooner anyway. You don't have to go looking for them. Trust me, I know. They'll come to you, they always do.
Well, Miss Bow, we have had so much catching up to do, you and I. So I hope you will join me next Thursday afternoon for cocktails at the home of our mutual friends, Norman and Hedda Roston.
It'll be my pleasure, I'm sure.
We're going now. This show is a very big deal to Jane, you know. She's devastated that you can't make it. You're always letting her down. You're always letting all of us down.
Sorry. I don't know what else I can do. My work is my life. That's who I am. You knew that when you married me. You said you loved me for it.
Well, I just assumed you'd find a way to make your family part of your life, too. That you'd want to do that. That it would be important to you. But I guess I was wrong.
Mary, you're not...
Mary exits the room in a huff, leaving Miller sitting alone with a pained expression. Monroe walks to the bar, and with delight, she pours herself another drink. Blackout. Act 2, Scene 3. October 17th, 1955. Hotel hotel room in New York City. Suitcases and boxes are scattered about, and a typewriter sits on a desk. Miller rests on the bed as Monroe stands before him. Mary stands in the opposite corner.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Playwright. Happy birthday to you.
This has been quite some 40th birthday. Instead of baking me a cake, Mary kicked me out of the house.
Be gone. Go. Run off with that movie star slut you've been slobbering over all these years. That's my birthday present to you. I'm giving you your freedom. That's what you wanted all along, isn't it? But you were too chicken shit to ask for it. So you made us both miserable instead. Well, I've had enough. I'll have someone bring you your things, but I want you out of this house. Do you hear me? Right now.
Now, suddenly here I am, in a hotel room with you. You know, Mary and I were married 15 years. I was faithful for 14 of them, until you came east last year.
Gadge helped me arrange that. He also gave me the names of some of the people he thought would connect me to you. Stan Shaw and I trapezed all through Brooklyn Heights in the wind and rain last January, pretending to be on a photo shoot. Ooh, it was cold. But the real reason was so that Stan could call the Rothsteins to ask if we could take refuge in their apartment. I still shiver when I think about how cold it was. That way, Norma and Hedda would meet me, and through them, I'd innocently run into you again. Didn't work out that way. Not the running into you part, but that was the plan. And Norma and Hedda have become good friends. That was Gadge's idea. He's not the scoundrel you think he is.
Either Gadge was playing Cupid by bringing us together, or he was trying to hurt me by using you to break up my marriage. Which do you think?
Maybe a little bit of both. Wouldn't that be like Gadge?
He knew I fled from back then in California because I couldn't resist you. Now there's nowhere to run.
Why would you want to?
Your ex might come over with a baseball bat. I hear he's a jealous type.
Most of the time, Joe was so sweet and attentive, a real gentleman, but he has this fierce jealous streak that drives him mad. Just like what you said about those tragic heroes. Their pride fills them with rage and that destroys them. Joe and I almost broke up over the centerfold issue of the Playboy magazine, though I even had any control over that.
I still have that copy stashed in my notebooks. They're so sacrosanct, no one can touch them. Mary wouldn't dare look at them. Here, let me see if I can find them.
Miller rummages through one of the boxes and produces a copy of Playboy, which he opens to the centerfold.
Those pictures were taken years ago when I was dirt poor and needed rent money. Signed away the rights. The Playboy spread came out just before we got married. We almost didn't get married because of it.
If Mary ever found that Playboy, my marriage would have been broken up years ago. But how could I at least not look? How could I possibly throw it away?
Did you like what you saw?
I loved it. Still do.
Joe did too. He just didn't want to share it with the rest of the world. He was so possessive. He just wanted me to be a good Italian wife, not Hollywood sex symbol. Our marriage began to fall apart on our honeymoon. Can you believe that?
How sad.
Well, we were in Japan. They asked me to do some USO show for the boys in Korea. How could I say no? After all, they were risking their lives for us. So I gave the troops a little something that would make them forget about all the fighting and the bloodshed for a while. It felt great. I was serving my country, and hundreds and thousands of young men were loving me for it. I felt so sexy and alive, and Joe hated it. And then he went crazy when I was filming that scene from 70 Inch. You know, the one where the blast of air blows out my dress?
Of course I know it. I've studied it.
I'll test you on it later. Anyway, a huge crowd had gathered just to get a glimpse of my panties. Maybe 2,000 people. Can you believe that?
Yes, if they were your panties, so insecure?
I had to promise to do some sexy photo ops for the photographers to keep them from setting their flashbulbs while we filmed. Each take made Joe even more and more furious till he stormed off the set and went to the hotel. When I finished the scene, I went straight back to be with him, but as soon as I walked through the door, he pounced on me.
What did he do?
He slapped me in the face hard.
No.
I told him I'm a movie star. This is what I do. But he said he'd been a hero to those people, and I turned him into a joke. Dirty joke. It was all about him, don't you see? My career meant nothing. I pointed that out to him. He called me a whore, and then he hit me even harder.
How awful. I didn't even know he hit you.
We split up less than a month later. There's your dramatic irony. The movie was finally making me a star and destroyed my marriage.
The destruction of my marriage is finally let me love you as I've always wanted to. Shiva the Destroyer is indeed Shiva the Creator.
Well, I don't know anything about any Shiva. I only know that I want to stay here with you forever, where the outside world can never touch us.
That's my birthday wish come true.
Blackout. Act 2, Scene 4. June 21st, 1956. A bare stage with a single chair. Miller, intense and somewhat indignant, sits facing the audience, holding papers. The amplified voice of Francis E. Walter is heard. The Monroe sits in a darkened corner of the stage on their chair beside a small table with a radio and telephone.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for coming to testify before the subcommittee of the House Committee on Un-American Activities. This is a public hearing. For the record, I am Francis C. Walter, Chairman of the committee. Also present, are Representatives Willis, Kearney, and Scherer. Today is June 21st, 1956, and for the purpose of these hearings, the purpose of these hearings are to investigate the unauthorized use of United States passports.
It seems odd for a congressional committee to investigate the passport applications of a single individual, a harmless writer at that, or a performer like Paul Robinson, whose passport the State Department has denied, and I quote, here, because of the applicant's recognized status as a spokesman for large sections of Negro Americans, and because he has worked for the independence of colonial Africa. The State Department seems to forget that the United States was founded on independence from colonial rule.
Please, Mr. Miller, this is not the place to comment on other witnesses or the work of this committee.
Can you enlighten me as to how any legislation or governmental oversight can possibly come from these hearings? How do my travel plans possibly merit a federal investigation by a legislative body or an act of Congress? Or rather, please, tell me what is the actual purpose of these inquiries, apart from the intimidation and suppression of free exercise of constitutional rights?
The committee will be asking the questions here. Do you currently have an active passport application?
Yes. I applied over 4 weeks ago so I may travel to England in order to prepare for the opening there of my play, A View from the Bridge, and to accompany the woman who by then will be my wife. She will be making a movie, The Prince and the Showgirl, with Laurence Olivier, I might add. Is that colonial enough for you?
Lights on Monroe. Picks up the telephone and dials.
Hello? Hedda? Did you hear that? Did you hear it? Art's told the whole world that he's marrying me. Me. Can you believe it? You know, he never really ever proposed.
And when you applied for a passport in 1947, did you then take an oath swearing that you had not contributed to the communist cause, supported it, or been under its discipline?
Why weren't former Nazi supporters ever compelled to take such oaths? We fought a world war against them. Why hasn't Lindbergh ever been hauled before this committee to explain his pro-Nazi sympathies in the 30s?
Mr. Miller...
Yes, I know. Just answer the question. I don't recall actually taking the oath, but in any case, I would have been willing to swear that I have been affiliated from time to time with groups that have been since been cited as communist-dominated organizations. I would certainly have also sworn I was never under the discipline of the Communist Party.
And would you take an oath that you had never contributed to the communist cause?
I may have contributed $1 or $2 in the past to some organizations. Those donations would now be called contributing to the communist cause. They were not considered that then, however.
To what organizations are you referring?
Let me think. I understand the Joint Anti-Fascist Committee has been cited. I contributed from time to time to their efforts during that after the Spanish Civil War.
And you were aware that the Spanish loyalists were supported by the Soviet Union?
Yes, among others. And were you aware that Franco was supported by Hitler?
I must remind you that the committee asked the questions here, not the witness. Did you not sign petitions and lend your name to causes that attacked the work of the House Committee on Un-American Activities?
Yes, I did. It seemed to me that the then prevalent, rather ceaseless investigation of artists was creating a pal appreciation and fear among all kinds of people. And I do not believe that such an atmosphere is healthy for the state of art or the state of our democracy.
Can you tell me why, given your insistence on speaking up on behalf of politically active writers who did not, in 1945, support the poet Ezra Pound? In fact, in 1945, you criticized those who defended Mr. Pound on the same basis that you later endorsed those who defended the Hollywood 10.
In the first place, this was a time of war. Pound was literally, and in every conceivable way, a traitor. And there was no question about it in anybody's mind. Moreover, I felt he threatened me personally. You know, I actually listened to his broadcast on shortwave radio with my own ears as I heard him, in his jolly, self-assured tone of voice, call for the complete eradication of my people. I am a Jew. He was for burning Jews. You will have to pardon my excitement at the time.
So, in your view, it is permissible to condemn a fascist traitor who also attacks communism, but it is not permissible to condemn communist traitors such as the Foley Square 12 who have been convicted for advocating the overthrow of the United States government. How do you justify this contradiction?
The 12 were convicted only because they endorsed the writings of Karl Marx, who 100 years ago called for the eventual overthrow of Western democracies. That's a far cry from aiding Mussolini during wartime. Ezra Pound and Tokyo Rose, and Axis Sally for that matter, were U.S. citizens actively working to undermine U.S. efforts to defeat our declared enemies during a time of war. The 12 were not. In essence, they were not convicted for being members of the Communist Party, something they were legally entitled to do. Moreover, I failed to see the relevance of my criticism of Ezra Pound in 1945 to my application for a passport 10 years later. Am I being punished for condemning a traitor to our country?
We wonder why you are not so quick to condemn treason committed by those from the opposite side of the political spectrum.
And I wonder the same of you. What has that to do with my passport?
Moving on, did you not collaborate artistically with Mr. Elia Kazan?
He directed 2 of my plays.
And in 1953, did you criticize Mr. Kazan as a renegade intellectual for testifying before this committee and identifying members of the Communist Party?
No. I have never made a statement about Elia Kazan's testimony in my life.
And did you break with Mr. Kazan after you cooperated with this committee?
I would not choose the word break, but yes, I disassociated from him. I am not at all certain that Mr. Kazan would have directed my next play in any case. There were other considerations, private ones with absolutely no political interest that affected our relationship. The fact is that he did not direct any more of my plays. As I have stated in the New York Post, it may be that in the future he will.
What do you think? Of course I'm the private consideration. So now I'm the subject of congressional inquiry? What would Norma Jean think? What do you mean? Next time I'll try for the president. You're right. Oh, doing it with Ike would be creepy. Guess I'll study art.
The question is, did you attack Kazan because he broke with the Communist Party and testified before a congressional committee?
I stated earlier, sir, that I have never attacked Kazan. I will stand on that. But if I had, would that be grounds for denying me the right to travel abroad?
Moving on then, in 1940, did you apply for membership in the Communist Party?
No, sir, I did not. I did attend a Marxist study course in my neighborhood in Brooklyn, and I signed a form or another. But I never applied for membership in the party. I attended the course 3 or 4 times before I lost interest and dropped out.
But you did attend communist meetings with writers in New York City?
I understood them to be meetings with writers who were communists, but they were not party meetings as such. I wanted to discover firsthand what communism was really all about, and where I stood in relation to it. The ability to pursue ideas freely, even unpopular ones, is one of the American liberties I cherish most, and I exercise it often in many contexts. Socrates maintains that the unexamined life is not worth living, and attending these meetings was one way in which I examined my own life. However, I did not find them particularly useful. I listened and said very little in 4 or 5 meetings I attended.
Mr. Miller, will you please tell us who invited you and who attended these party meetings with you?
Mr. Chairman, I understand the philosophies behind this question, and I want you to understand mine. When I say this, I want you to understand that I am not protecting the communists or the Communist Party. I am trying to, and I will, protect my sense of myself. I could not use the name of another person and bring trouble on him. These were writers. The life of a writer is pretty tough. I wouldn't make it any tougher for anybody else. I will tell you anything about myself as I have, but I will not identify other people.
May I point out that moral scruples, however laudable, do not constitute a legal basis for refusing to comply. If you do not answer this question, you are placing yourself in contempt of Congress.
All I can do is reiterate that my conscience will not permit me to name another person. I will, however, add that these meetings showed me that I am not a Marxist. Great art, like great science, attempts to see the present remorselessness and truthfully. If Marxism is what it claims to be, a science of society, it must be devoted to the objective facts more than all philosophies it attacks as false. Therefore, the first job of a Marxist writer should be to tell the truth. If the truth is not what he thinks it ought to be, he must insist on telling it anyway. But my idealized view of Marxism does not conform to reality. In reality, the Marxist writer must alter the facts to fit the party line. I could never do that, I have not done that, and I will not do that for any party or movement or government.
Well, we're about to end this session. I'll conclude by asking you, why do you not use some of your magnificent writing ability to fight against the well-known communist subversive conspiracies in our country and throughout the world?
I concur that it would be a disaster if the Communist Party ever took over this country. That is my opinion, and that it has come not to me of the blue sky, but out of long thought. I believe in democracy. I believe it is the only way to live for myself and for anybody I care about. My criticisms of our government, such as it has been, must not be confused with hatred. I love this country as much as any man, but the task of the artist is to speak the truth as he sees it. Speaking the truth is the ultimate act of love, even if the truth is painful, especially if the truth is painful, because it enables the society to perceive its own self-destructive hypocrisies and actions. I am a dramatist, so let me put it this way in dramatic terms. If a tragic hero were to gain insight into his flaws before he commits the act that destroys him, he could avoid his tragic fate. Likewise, a nation that recognizes how it has devastated from its core values can save itself by using this knowledge to rectify its self-destructive behavior. I would like more than nothing else in this world to make my plays more affirmative and and I intend to do so before I finish. But this must be done on the basis of reality. Otherwise, I would be no better than a Marxist writer who distort themselves and work to conform themselves to the party line. Otherwise, I would simply be contributing to our nation's self-deception and self-destruction, and that would be the most unloving thing I could do for my country.
Oh, Hannah, wasn't he magnificent? What a man. I can't believe how lucky I am.
And Mr. Miller, we hold you in contempt of Congress for refusing to fully answer our question. This session is adjourned.
Blackout. Act 2, Scene 5. July 1956. Hotel room in London. The room contains reading chairs, a bar, and a coffee table with a bottle of pills. Miller and Monroe lounge together on a couch.
I still can't believe it. Norma Jean can't believe it. I'm here in London with my husband, who's not only the greatest American playwright alive today, bar none. Take that, Tennessee Williams and Eugene O'Neill. Not only that, he's America's greatest political hero. The man who told UN where to get off. Honey, I am so proud of you, and so is everyone else. At least everyone who counts. No, not only is he the greatest playwright and the greatest hero, he's the greatest lover I've ever had. Because you adore me for who I really am.
I do adore you, and I admire you. I've always admired you.
Why? Why would a great writer like you admire an uneducated girl like me?
I've told you 100 times.
But I love hearing you say it. Tell me again.
I adore you, not only for your legendary beauty and amazing sex appeal, of course, for those two, but even for more, your authenticity. You're the most authentic person I know, bar none. Take that, Tennessee Williams and Eugene O'Neill.
Every time you tell me, it makes me all tingly inside. I still can't believe I'm your wife. You don't think our marriage is cursed, do you?
Cursed? Why would it be cursed? We're blessed. We're a fairy tale couple. Just pick up any newspaper and switch on the television channel.
That woman reporter who died chasing us,
to, believe me that. I don't look forward to prison. But that's what being a hero means. More to the point, it's what being a man of integrity means. Being willing to pay the price of clear conscience, regardless of the cost. That's what my writing has been all about. How could I offer those plays and then cave in? How could I criticize Gash and then cave in? I'd be a hypocrite in the world's eye. My own eyes, and worst of all, yours.
I'm scared.
She walks to the coffee table and takes a pill from the bottle.
Get me some water.
You really think it's such a good idea to take another one of those? You already had one this morning.
My shrink says it's okay. All this talk about Mary's curse and you going to prison frightens me.
Here. But pay attention to how much of that stuff you're taking. You don't want to become addicted. I think they affect your mood too much. Haven't you noticed the mood swings?
Don't be silly. I can handle my alcohol and I can handle my barbiturates. But I am afraid you'll leave me. Like Mommy, and Daddy, and Johnny, and Joe, and all the rest of them. Even Gavin.
I'll never leave you. You know that.
What if they send you to jail?
If they do, it will just be for a while. I'll come right back to you. Besides, it would be bad politics for them to lock me up. And that's all they really care about. Politics.
How would it be bad politics?
They'd look pretty bad before the rest of the world if they threw me in prison. Just weeks after the most highly publicized wedding in human history. That's why the State Department changed its tune and gave me the visa to come here with you after all.
If they do, I'll visit you every weekend. I'll bring homemade matzo ball soup. Your mother can teach me how to cook it.
You can sneak a hacksaw blade into one of those matzo balls.
Yes, that's it. I'll mastermind a jailbreak and then we'll run away somewhere where nobody can find us.
And you could do it too. I have no doubt. But I don't think it'll come to that.
Can't wait till we wrap up Showgirl. Then I'll be free to spend all my time with you. Besides, Hattie with his bricks. Larry Olivier is a real pain in the ass. He acts like working with me is slumming. Sir Lawrence is enough high-mighty Englishman for sure.
No one likes being condescended to.
He patronizes me. He treats me like I'm a twig. A slutty, simple-minded twig.
Perhaps if you would stick to the shooting schedule and arrive on time more often, he'd be more disposed towards you.
So you're taking his side now? You abandoned me already. Should have known.
No, of course I haven't abandoned you. I love you. I'll never abandon you.
You already have. You're siding with him.
I'm not siding with anyone else but you. But I'm the one who takes the phone calls when you don't show up on set. And I'm the one who has to come up with explanations. It places me in an uncomfortable position.
So don't take the phone calls.
How can I do that and just leave them hanging?
It's easy. Don't pick up the phone.
That's not an option. It could be Peter about the play, it could be my mother, or Jane.
Oh, you must have dared miss a call from your daughter.
What's that mean?
Never mind. Suit yourself. Answer the damn phone, but don't complain to me about it.
What if it's your shrink? Wouldn't you want to talk to him?
He can wait. What's the big deal?
I don't see why you needed to fly him over here to be on set with you. He hasn't helped much that I can see, or Lee and Paula either, for that matter. It's like they're just all struggling for your soul, and they're doing it on your dime.
Along with you.
Who has a better claim to it than I?
Me. I do it. It's my soul and my dime.
Of course it's your soul. I just wish your psychiatrist would ease off of the barbiturates and make you erratic.
I knew you'd see the monster sooner or later. I knew I couldn't hide it from you forever. You hate me, don't you?
Of course not.
I'm not sweet and perfect and lovingly Marilyn. I'm mean and angry and bitchy Marilyn. And you hate me for that, don't you?
I love you. All of you. The sweet-tempered Marilyn and the bitchy one too. You're human after all. We all have our shadow sides. God knows you put up with mine. I write in those notebooks represents what I actually think or feel. If you do, that would totally stifle me. I wouldn't be free to let my imagination soar. It would cripple me as an artist.
And rating them, bitch! And your daughter's the only person you'll ever love will cripple me as your wife? As your lover?
I'm sorry that you ever found that book. I love you. I adore you. Even when you descend into those dark places, I still love you. You know I do. You also know that in my notebooks, I don't censor myself or qualify anything, or even necessarily believe what I write. I like to try on ideas and personas, to express sentiments and see whether or not they resonate. The same way I sampled communism and found it wasn't for me. You know that's how I work. Those words don't express who I am or what I believe in. They aren't me.
So I'm not a bitch?
Of course you're not. Olivier's a prick.
That's the first honest thing you've said.
Come on, Marilyn. You know that's not true.
That notebook really hurt me.
I'm sorry for that. But you must understand my notebooks are among my most valuable tools. If I hold back, I'd be finished as a playwright. You can't hold me accountable for anything I write in there. That's why I never show them to anyone. You understand that?
Guess so.
So do you forgive me?
Do you know what? Gadge was right to testify. Gadge did what he had to do. He was right for naming names, and you should let all that go now.
What do you mean, let it go? I may go to prison for refusing to do what he did.
Gadge was true to himself.
And I'm not true to myself.
No! You sell yourself out in order to be true to your ideals.
I don't know how to separate myself from my ideas. They are who I am.
That's the difference between you and Gadge. He can separate himself out when he needs to. You're willing to go to jail and leave me all alone, unprotected, to stand up from some abstract principle?
But Meredith...
Gadge would never do that. If he loved someone, he would let himself be taken from her. Not for any reason, not when she needs him to be there.
Gadge loves himself, and he will do whatever it takes to protect himself.
And what's wrong with that? Maybe if you loved yourself more than your precious code of conduct less, you'd be a lot happier, and I would feel more secure. You're willing to sacrifice my happiness along with yours, and that's not fair.
I have no answer for that. I'll be the one making license plates. You'll continue to be a star. You'll be taken care of, pampered in every way. Anyway, if people don't stand for anything beyond their own self-interest, then civilization ceases to exist. It's like Rabbi Hillel said, if I am only myself, who am I?
But first he said, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? Don't look so shocked. They made me study Hillel before I converted. So now I'm asking you, Mr. Playwright, when they take you to jail, who will be for you? Your lefty pals? I don't think so. They don't exactly have a great track record for that.
I thought you were for me. I thought you were going to free me from prison with a hacksaw blade hidden in those matzo balls. But now I'm not so sure.
And I thought you loved me and you'd always be there for me. But now I'm not so sure. After that notebook, I don't know if I can trust you anymore.
If not, when?
I don't know. Maybe never.
Damn it, I love you! I will always love you! I will never leave you! But you're ripping my heart out. These tantrums are shredding my soul.
Blackout. Act 2, Scene 6. May 1960. A Hollywood restaurant. Miller and Kazan sit at a table eating.
Gash? It was awfully nice of you to invite me to lunch this way. After everything.
You know, after everything, I never stopped caring about you. been through too much together. True, I wanted to kill you a few times, you and your liberal pals. I wanted to kick you in the ass so hard that you wouldn't be able to walk for a week. Or you're nuts. You wouldn't be able to fuck for a week. I mean that. But even so, I never wished you ill.
Thank you for that. I guess I can say the same. I still see you're a steak and potatoes man.
I needed to keep my strength up.
We've been on quite a roll these past few years. East of Eden, Baby Doll, Facing the Crowd, and now Wild River. Marilyn and I saw it last week. No one does drama with a social conscience like you, Gadge.
Don't forget Waterfront. I got an Academy Award for that.
Of course, Waterfront. And the plays you collaborated on with Tennessee. Very impressive.
Tennessee was the only friend who stood by me. If one is to believe the press, you've been in a bad way. Is your life really the shambles they say it is?
Yes, I suppose it is. It's not just that Marilyn's carrying on openly with Yves Montan. We used to be pals, Yves and I.
It's hard when your friends betray you.
I thought he was credible as Proctor in the Crucible.
Didn't see it.
He was innocent of witchcraft, but guilty of lechery. You know, I recommended Yves to Kukor to replace Peck in Let's Make Love. Peck left because my revisions built up Marilyn's part, and at an expense to his. I did that for her. So much for my vaunted integrity. That's what I've sunk to. This affair is Peck's revenge on me. Now Marilyn's not even pretending she and Yves are fucking. Can you imagine how it feels to be cuckolded so publicly? The world's most famous marriage has been degenerated into the world's most famous adultery.
Right up there with Helen and Troy.
You can't imagine how humiliating it is to see my horns plastered all over headlines, not to mention the betrayal. He was always saying that I'd be one to betray her.
It's Marilyn. What do you expect?
I know her views on fidelity have always been different from mine, but I still thought she'd be faithful. Out of love, not from obligation or any sense of moral duty.
Always the romantic. Always the idealist.
On top of that, Marilyn blames me for everything. She drinks too much, she can't sleep, and she pops pills every night. She's hooked on barbiturates. Has been for a long time now. She's already overdosed a couple times and had to be rushed to the hospital. She almost died.
It was in the papers.
Plus, the miscarriages have really gotten her down. She wanted a baby so much, or at least she thought she did.
To be frank, I never saw Marilyn as the mothering type. She always needed a mother too much to be one. A good one, anyway.
Now on the set, she acts like a little junkie. Curtis maintains she was a disaster to work with on some like hot. He said kissing her was like kissing Hitler.
That's harsh. I think it was her best work so far.
But it was like pulling teeth to get her to behave. Now on Misfits, she's always late to rehearsals, she forgets her lines, she's rude to the other actors, then she pretends to be sick and takes off for a trip to Montan, leaving everyone else to cool her heels in the desert. Gable's aged 10 years putting up with her antics. What's worse is that I'm the one who has to make excuses for her. If I don't go back up 100%, she accuses me of abandoning her, betraying her, not standing up for what she needed when she needs me. And when I try to retain her outrageous behavior, or if I refuse to obey her every command, she calls me old, grouchy, gross. You believe it?
So why do you put up with it? Dump her, I would.
It might come down to that, trust me. It might. But you know, in spite of everything, I love her. And she needs me. For all of her success, she's still that scared, vulnerable little girl who thinks she's worthless, who needs protection.
So that makes you Art the Rescuer. The knight in shining armor who earns her adoration by saving her from herself. And you bask in that adoration. Until it turns into disdain or even disgust.
certainly done that. I don't know what I've done to deserve it, except to pander her, I suppose. I thought I was showing my love, but somehow she sees it as a weakness.
I think deep down she believes that anyone who loves her must have something wrong with him. She resents you for not recognizing her worthlessness and punishing her for it. It's what you two have in common.
You think so? She's written me off. There's nothing I can do about it. You know, I wrote the Misfits as a love offering. I know how much it means to her to prove that she's a real acting talent, and she is. So I wrote a screenplay to show off her skill and range, to demonstrate she's more than just a sex symbol. I wanted it to be a real collaboration between us. A great new way to manifest our love. But she degraded everything. She treats me with contempt. She treats the movie with contempt. She treats herself with contempt.
Lights transition. Zahn freezes. Monroe re-enters, carrying a drink and a bottle of pills. She is in her hotel room. She and Miller face each other at center stage.
I just tried to help you. Why do you always construe everything I say in the most hurtful way possible? I love you. You know that.
Why? Why do you love me? Why do you want to help me?
You're my wife, my soulmate.
Soulmate my ass. You think you're Henry Higgins and I'm Elizabeth Doolittle, the poor ignorant little flower girl you molded on your own image, the innocent ignoramus who worships the ground you walk on. Well, all I can say to you is just you wait, Henry Higgins. Just you wait.
What? What have I done to deserve your scorn? Let me know and I'll change.
You show your true stripes. How can you change now? If you really love me, you wouldn't let Hudson bully me around the way he does.
He's the director. He's the one who calls the shots. That's his job.
No, I'm the star. I'm the one who calls the shots. If I don't want to start shooting till noon, then we don't shoot till noon. That's what being a star is.
Silly me. I thought it meant being an exceptional talent.
Yeah, you would.
We are out here in the desert. It's 20 degrees hotter at noon than at 8. You can see what the heat's been doing to Gable. He looks like hell.
Fuck Gable. What were you going to say? Nothing, my eye. I know what you were going to say.
And why ask?
You think I'm a slut.
I never said
You
that.
don't have to. Your soulmate is a slut. Thanks a lot, Joe DiMaggio.
Marilyn.
Either you go to Hudson and make him change the shooting schedule, or I'm off the film. Let him find another leading lady with my box office draw.
Marilyn, be responsible. I wrote this film for you.
I mean it. I am tired of being treated like some nobody.
Nobody treats you like a nobody. Far from it.
Why do you always disagree with me? You're supposed to be on my side. You're supposed to back me up. Are you going to tell Hudson to change the schedule, or am I leaving?
I try to be on the side of reason and common sense.
Don't give me that shit! You're either on my side or I'm out. Now.
Okay. Okay. I'll speak with him this afternoon.
What fun that's going to be.
Light transition. Monroe exits and we return to the restaurant table with Kazan and Miller.
You know, I've been seeing a new girl that reminds me of Marilyn. Barbara Loden. Met her while shooting Facing the Crowd.
I like that movie. Schulberg did a good job in that screenplay. It's got a lot of meat to it.
Barbara's got Marilyn's authenticity and her gutsiness. She's always upfront about what she wants and how she feels.
Well, that's Marilyn, all right.
I followed Barbara into the ladies' room that first day, after everyone else had gone home. She had already made it clear what she wanted from me. We made out against one of the stalls. I was feeling her up pretty good, and she was feeling me up, too.
You never hold back, do you?
Never. Neither should you. It was pure, raw sex. Doggone bitch. Made me feel 20 years younger.
Molly just accepts her like the others.
Molly doesn't know. In any case, Molly gets what she needs from our marriage, otherwise she wouldn't stay. She's finally accepted that my needs are different from hers and vice versa. I often wonder why people make such a fuss about infidelity. Sometimes it's the only thing that keeps a marriage together.
That's certainly food for thought.
Indeed it is. Think about it. Barbara's from a poor family like Marilyn. She didn't have any advantages. Still, she never pretends to be what she's not. Just like Marilyn. Neither of them apologizes for anything, least of all their lust.
You know, it wasn't always like this way between us. Marilyn was so proud of me after my testimony. The studio pressured her to pressure me.
No surprise there.
Some bastard at Fox told her that if I named names, she'd be through in Hollywood. You know what she told him?
I'm proud of my husband and I'll stand behind him 100%.
I can't tell you how much that meant to me.
I have to give Molly credit. She was a real bulwark during my HUAC days. She's put up with a lot of shit from me, but when the chips were down, she was right there. Unlike some friends I can think of.
You know, the day before I testified, that SOB chairman, Walter, offered to call the whole thing off if Marilyn would pose for some publicity photos with him.
Painless solution to your problem, Mr. Miller.
Just shows how cynical the whole HUAC operation is.
He'd fit right in Hollywood.
Marilyn and I married right after I testified. You might have read about it.
It was hard not to, even though I tried. I was surprised they let you leave the country.
But I was a good lawyer. The best. He somehow managed a temporary visa after my testimony. Then, at the contempt trial, when he kept accusing me of traveling to a communist country in 47, Rao finally remembered that Czechoslovakia was still a democracy then. It didn't turn communist till 48. Not that the judge cared, but I think it made a difference when we finally won the appeal.
And now you're the great hero of the left. The man who stood up to HUAC and got away with it.
It cost me a pretty penny, but I did what I had to do.
So did I.
Never said you didn't. You know, the committee even asked me about that. In their eyes, condemning you is apparently reason enough for denying a person to the right to travel.
At least they got something right.
I never said you didn't. Listen. I told them I never criticized your testimony, which is true.
No. You just wrote 2 plays that anyone reading between the lines could see were directed at me.
And you retaliated with Waterfront. You took my original idea and turned it into everything I was against. Not just an apology for informing, a celebration.
That was mostly Schellberg's doing. But I confess I helped. Felt good.
You could have broken that insidious blacklist. You know that, don't you?
No, I don't. If I had known for a fact, I would have. I hated the blacklist as much as anyone, but I wasn't going to ruin my career fighting a lost cause.
It wasn't a lost cause. Well, that's all water under the bridge now. Besides, it was the committee that screwed everyone. They put you and me and everyone else in an untenable situation. No sense in holding grudges.
Is that why you had Monty give me the manuscript of The Misfits last winter? I was quite surprised when I saw it, very unexpected. I didn't know what to make of it.
I thought you'd be good for it. And Marilyn, too.
I liked her in Bus Stop. I liked your screenplay, too. But my schedule, I've started preliminary work on a new movie. It's been consuming me.
What's that?
America, America. It's about an immigrant who arrives with nothing but guts and the determination to do whatever it takes, not just to survive, but to thrive, to come out on top. It's based on my uncle.
That could have been my grandfather immigrating from Poland, or my father. He came all by himself when he was only 6 years old. Someone put a sign around his neck with the name of the ship he was on board. Then, he was on the side on his own with my uncles and met him at the dock in New York City. He made himself a rich man until he lost it all.
Exactly. I want this to be a tribute to my father and what it took for him to uproot his family from Istanbul and start a new life in this totally foreign world. America. different customs, different values, different rules. You know, I never really appreciated him before I started this movie. Tell you the truth, I always thought he was a real bastard. Anyway, I don't know if I can direct Marilyn at this stage in our lives. Let me ask you, just to clear the air. How much of your break with me was over HUAC? And how much was because I was still stuck in Maryland back then? The great love of your life, even if you were married.
To tell you the truth, I don't even know anymore. Both things bothered me. A lot. But how could I complain under the circumstances about either?
I figured that's what you were talking about in your testimony.
Of course. It's a shame, though, that they came between us, HUAC and Maryland.
Well, we may have another chance. Bob Whitehead has asked me to be the artistic director for the new Lincoln Center Theater. It's what we've always wanted for this country. A first-rate repertory theater for productions with real depth and character exploration. Not that fluff that Broadway's in love with nowadays.
Or that ridiculous theater of the absurd that's on the off-Broadway. The whole point of theater is to plumb the human soul, but they don't even try. The only thing worse than rubbish is the pretentious rubbish with that French accent.
A new play written by Arthur Miller and directed by Elia Kazan would make for one hell of an opening night. Think about it.
Blackout. Act 2, Scene 7. The evening of August 4th, 1962. Stage right is Arthur Miller's study, which is separated from stage left, Marilyn Monroe's bedroom. Miller sits in a chair reviewing his manuscript. A couch is beside him and a bottle of liquor, and two glasses sit on a small table. Stage left, Monroe frets in her room, pacing and drinking and popping pills. A mirror is on the wall and photos of Kazan, Miller, DiMaggio, and John Kennedy line the nightstand. Exasperated, Monroe walks off stage. Stage right, there's brief knocking off stage, and then Kazan enters.
Ingo let me in.
Thanks for coming out. A night like this. Here, have a seat. Want a drink?
Please. Oh, Molly and I had a tip before I came over. I can use a drink. She thinks I've been using you as a cover for some secret tryst with a new lover. As a matter of fact, I haven't been. Here I am, as you can see.
I thought Molly wasn't a jealous type.
Normally she isn't, but she is human. I think she's been feeling a little insecure as she gets older. Aging is not a pleasant prospect for anyone.
No, it's not. Still, a jealous spouse is no fun. Inga's been a refreshing change in that regard. Well, drink up.
Whew. Okay. So, why am I here?
I was working on the play all day, and I want to get your feedback on the draft. I gave you before, so much farther. Plus, I finally settled on a title. What do you think of After the Fall?
Why not just winter? It's simpler.
I was thinking more like Adam and Eve.
Ah, sin and loss of innocence. Perhaps remorse, perhaps not. Let me sleep on it.
Okay, so what do you think about the draft?
I like this one better, but it needs to delve even deeper. It's still not clear who Maggie is deep down or what psychological forces drive her character.
Monroe re-enters the room and marches up to the mirror.
I hate you, you piece of shit. You repel everyone who's ever loved you. Art, Joe, Gad, Mommy, Daddy, Jack. Why not? How could anyone love you after they really got to know you? Why would anyone stay after the monster rears its ugly head?
I see, Maggie,
she's endured a lot. That's made her strong in some ways, but demolished her self-esteem. She feels inherently worthless. And the only way to appease her inadequacy is to get men to fuck her. But it's not the sex she craves, it's the feeling of being desired. And she becomes famous, and everyone desires her. But deep down, she doesn't believe it. So her arc in the play is quite simple. She goes from victimhood to a viciously commanding egotism, and then back to victimhood.
Oh, but he loves me.
I can see that.
Of course, her evolution compels a corresponding change in Quentin. He transforms from the older, wiser, successful professional who adores Maggie, her childlike innocence, and brings stability to her chaotic life, to a beaten man with no self-esteem, no self-respect. In the second phase, he has abandoned his own core values and prostrated himself before the monstrous needs of Maggie, the great star.
Yes, you communicate his deep capacity for groveling very well.
Finally, as Maggie falls back into victimhood, Quentin flees in order to save himself. But he incurs enormous guilt. Part of him feels that he has abandoned her when she needs him most. Another part knows that whatever he does, Maggie has always been drawn to her own self-destruction, like a moth to a light. He knows that if he doesn't flee, she will take him down with her. And his instinct for survival or self-preservation is too strong for him to permit that.
So he's a survivor. That's good. But torturing himself over it, that's ridiculous. Besides, the story of the respectable man who debases himself for a rootless woman has been told before. Carmen, the Blue Angel.
They were the femme fatales who trapped men in their sexuality. Maggie was like that to most men too. But it's not her sexuality that captures Quentin. It's her genuineness. She has never felt the need to apologize for who she is or for anything she has ever done. He respects that in her. In fact, he envies it and wishes he had it for himself. She rejects the masks, and he finds so essential. That's a big part of her attraction for him, along with her vulnerability, her sense of being lost and abandoned, her neediness.
You've all left me so alone.
Quentin the Rescuer, okay. But that has to come out stronger, and we need to see why he cast himself in that role. Why must he be the rescuer in order to be loved and accept love? Let me be brutally honest. Do you mind if I'm brutally honest?
You always are.
To me, this play is about morality and guilt, and I've never found those things to be very interesting. I think Quentin's boring. He's too introspective, too consumed by his own need to find himself guilty and then somehow receive absolution.
You said you loved me. You all said you loved me. Not you guys.
But he can never totally accept absolution, even when it's granted to him. Characters like that make me uneasy. They're weak and pathetic, not tragic. I don't think they make for great theater.
Art, you never loved me at all. You only ever loved yourself.
Oh, I don't see it that way. Quentin's afraid he can't love. He's been very successful at it before. So he's afraid to give up on Maggie because he'd been surrendering his own desperate need to become a truly compassionate person. And in that way, finally connect to humanity. And perhaps even to himself.
Art, you said you loved me. You said you'd always stay.
But what if he has latched onto the wrong person? Might that destroy him? Instead of resuscitating him. I'm sorry if you find him dull. I think it's a dilemma, it's compelling.
You would.
You're a liar.
Still, try to cut back on the introspection and self-flagellation. I know the stream of consciousness format encourages it, but restrain yourself, right?
What do you think about the introspective, more focused on Maggie.
What about me, Art? All you ever cared about was yourself.
I like that much better, but go deeper. Show them provoking each other, discovering each other's hidden vulnerabilities, and exploiting them. What happens when Maggie suddenly recognizes that Quentin craves adoration and that's what he's been getting from their relationship? I mean, she's worshipped him like a god and he loves it. He's addicted to it.
You shit! You pretended like it was all about me, but it never was. It was all about you. You know it was.
And in that respect, he and Maggie are the same at the core. They both crave the love of others because they cannot love themselves. That's their ultimate connection to each other.
God, at least you were honest about it. You never pretended that I was anything more than a lay. He was never pretending about anything you hid behind your mask of honor and integrity. Honor my ass! You're just a scared little Jewish boy craving adoration. That's all you've ever been. And I'm just a scared Christian girl, hoping that somebody will see me. Somebody, just anybody. Jesus never did. I thought you did for a while, but I was wrong, Art. You just looked at me and saw yourself magnified by it.
Okay. Gage, you've given me something to work on. Okay. You know, no one can help me with think of a character like this better than you. Not even Inga. She's damn good, too.
Were you still with her when you were still in Maryland?
No. We met during the making of Whiskers, but there was nothing between us until after Houston broke the set and I returned to New York. Marilyn and I had already agreed to split up.
Normal of you to wait. She's quite a change from Maryland.
The polar opposite. Tall, dark, and German. Not to mention cosmopolitan.
Now you married that crowd. You don't think I saw you making Google eyes at her on set? Didn't take you that long to move on, did it? Didn't take you long at all to get over me. Let's see if you can fool her as well as you fooled me.
Did you know Inga once saved Audie Murphy's life?
Oh, you're kidding.
No. She was on location in Mexico doing a spread for life on the making of Unforgiven. Houston had some of his pals, and they were hunting ducks on the edge of an enormous lake. And he had invited Inga to go along with so she could photograph him blasting the birds in the sky. After a while, she got bored and went off on her own. Suddenly, Inga saw someone thrashing in the water by a distant rowboat. She called over to the hunters, but they just dismissed it as one of Murphy's antics. He was always fooling around. Inga didn't think it was a joke. So, she stripped down to her bra and panties and swam half a mile to the boat. By then, Murphy was gasping for air, struggling to stay afloat. So, Inga had Murphy grab onto her bra strap and towed him halfway a mile back to shore.
What's that German bitch got that I don't got? Just because she went to those fancy schools doesn't make her better than me.
Hard to imagine Maryland doing that. Well, stripping to her panties and bra, me.
Murphy was so thankful. He gave her the watch he'd worn all throughout the war, while he was setting the record for killing Germans. That watch was one of his most prized possessions. Can you believe it? My wife, a German, saved America's most decorated war hero.
Be honest with me. Is Inga the reason you go so easy on the Germans in those scenes about the Holocaust? Because she was a good German who refused to go along with the Nazis and almost died for it?
I've asked myself a lot. The last thing I want is to compromise my artistic integrity for rationalizing my love for a German. For God's sakes, Inga's brother fought in the Wehrmacht. Her uncle was a general. At least none of them had anything to do with the camps. In fact, her godfather was hung for his role in the plot to kill Hitler. He used Inga as a counter, or that was Olga for the play. Sometimes I get confused.
Why wasn't she executed as well?
No one betrayed her. Olga, that is. But still, as a Jew, how can I love a German and not feel guilty?
How can you breathe and not feel guilty? Look, I am outraged by injustice. I want to make the world a better place, just like you.
I know that. I've never doubted. Ever.
But I don't have to make myself miserable in the process like you do. I do what I can, but I am not responsible. I never understood why you heap such a pile of responsibility on yourself all the time. Maybe it's your desire to be God. After all, if you are all-seeing and all-powerful, then how can you not be responsible? But you are neither. In any case, the Nazis were at fault for the Holocaust, not humanity, and not you. And certainly not me.
Of course the Nazis bear primary responsibility. My treatment does not diminish that. But everyone has it in him to behave in horrible ways. That's the most terrifying aspect of all.
No, the 6 million corpses. Those were the most terrifying aspect of all. And the millions of others those pigs slaughtered.
Certainly, I must do justice to the 6 millions, but how can I be honest and omit the fact of shared human guilt? That, at some core level, we are all complicit in this horror. In every horror.
Then are we not equally complicit in every great act of generosity, sacrifice, and compassion?
Yes. Yes, we are.
But you don't lie about that. And you don't live it.
What do you mean?
You will gladly shoulder the burden of human guilt, the sins of Adam and Cain. But when have I ever seen you truly rejoice in human beneficence? You respect it, you admire it, you applaud it, but you never claim it for your own. You never let it lift your spirits. You only cling to the horror. Only to the guilt. Am I right or not?
Guilty as charged.
Still more guilt. When you're in a no-win situation, you can't win. So what's wrong with surviving? Isn't that what we are programmed to do? Survive at all costs?
Some of us seem programmed for survival, others for sacrifice. Still others for survivor's guilt.
Some are born guilty, some achieve guiltiness, and some have guilt thrust upon them. I have never understood survivor's guilt. You play the hand you're dealt, and if you get lucky and a few unexpected breaks come your way, all the better. And if someone drowns beneath your churning feet while you're turning water to stay afloat, well, that's a shame. It truly is. But it's not your fault. And you didn't write the rules or set the terms for surviving.
How are you with Mickey? You haven't said anything about it.
The informer. The informer you've obviously based on me, just as you based Quentin on yourself and Maggie on Marilyn. I can see that you tried to show some sympathy for his position, and I appreciate that, I suppose, but he still comes across as scum.
He's not without his redeeming qualities. In any case, I need him to be the capable of betrayal in order to bring out Quentin's ambivalence and his own sense of guilt.
Because after all, where would Quentin be without his guilt? Mickey is not who I am. But if that's how you see things, then that's how you see them. What do you want me to say? I didn't apologize to myself back then, and I'm not going to apologize now.
I'm not asking you to. I'm not even asking you to explain yourself.
Monroe Ranger's crying. She stumbles over DiMaggio's photo.
Joe, you could be so sweet, so loving and tender. Sexuality drove you insane. That's who I am, Joe. Why couldn't you just accept me for who I am?
So, who do you see playing Maggie?
What about Barbara? She's a barbarian, too.
Gosh, why didn't you love me? How could the sex be so great and you're feeling so detached? Why didn't you like me more than Molly? More than all those other girls? Chad, you liked me better than Jackie, don't you? Your little mousy wife with her fine breeding and tiny ass. The President of the United States loves me, Jackie. Not you and your high society pedigree. Jack, why don't you want me anymore?
I do want you, Marilyn. I want you more than you can know, but I am the President of the United States for God's sakes. If our secret love ever became public, it would ruin me and destroy the country. Crude chef would smell my weakness and pounce like a tiger. Nuclear Armageddon in an instant. Everything explodes, kaboom. No, I am like Wotan, chief of the Norse gods. To succumb to my desire and bring joy to my heart would bring about nothing less than the destruction of America, practically the demise of the entire human race.
What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why does loving me always lead to the end of civilization? Why did God choose me as his forbidden fruit? Jesus, can you answer me that? I'm succulent and tasty. That's the way you make me, and I love it, but take one bite and we'll all be hurled from even to neck bite. What comes after the fall? Fear, brave men too scared to find out? Well, I'm not.
If you think Barbara's good for the role, then by all means, set up a reading.
She's pregnant, so she'll probably need to read sitting down, but that won't matter. You'll see that she can handle it. Excel it.
I've never had a child without a little girl to dress up and play with or share secrets with. Why didn't our babies live? They never even had a chance to be born.
She's gonna have a child.
Yeah. Barbara wants it, and I respect her choice.
Does Molly know?
No, I don't think so. It's probably better that way. Except for an occasional bout of jealousy, things have been going well between us lately. I haven't been seeing Barbara or anyone else. It's ironic. I'm finally faithful, and that's when Molly becomes suspicious. Anyway, why upset the cart by telling her about the child? I was thinking of having Barbara wear a Marilyn Monroe wig, right?
For the reading?
And the performance as well.
Huh. That's a thought.
Prettier than all those other girls, Gash. Sexier, too. Bet you pretend that there would be when you were screwing them, don't you?
Enter Barbara Logan, stage right, wearing Marilyn Monroe wig, played by the actress who plays Mary. She is very pregnant. She strikes an identifiable Marilyn Monroe pose, flirts briefly with Miller, blows kisses to both men, and then exits. Monroe pops more pills, pours another drink, and exits angrily. Stage left.
I had an inspiration today. That's why I insisted you come tonight, so I can tell you about it. I want to kill off Maggie. Early in Act 1, I'll have Quentin reveal that Maggie has committed suicide just a few weeks earlier. A drug overdose.
Monroe re-enters and stumbles across the room. She then plops down on the bed and lies motionless.
I think it will put everything that happens afterward into a stronger dramatic context. The audience will relate differently to Quentin's inner conflict if they know Maggie's eventually going to do herself in. It will intensify both his sense of betrayal and his need to escape her. What do you think?
Well, there's a certain ambiguity in leaving her alive at the end that I like. Alive but lost. It retains the possibility that she might survive and even go on to thrive without him, and that makes Quentin's guilt even more problematic.
Yes.
But I can see the advantages of killing her off early, too. For one thing, that would foreground her self-destructiveness. Prior knowledge of her suicide might let us see more clearly that Quentin had to flee. Otherwise, she would pull him down with her. That could explain not just his guilt, but also his despair because he didn't rescue her. Do we think he could have ever saved her, or was she doomed from the start without ever any real hope of salvation?
Light transition.
I guess this is like a birthday, except in reverse. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
is out.
Blackout. The end.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Let's hear it for Eric to be our... And to Rosalind, who helped us so much. Stay tuned. That's great. Listen, thank you so much for being here. Round of applause for Rick Schwartz, who played everybody agrees stage readings are a true labor of love. And a lot of time at home, the actors going through the script, they don't have time to memorize any of it, but it's an honor always to do a stage reading for a playwright. And Rick is moving into this whole area of playwriting after so many years with literature and writing narrative. So it's a huge journey. And an exciting one for Rick, and we look forward to helping him develop. Do you want to say a few words, or you want to?
Thank you to everybody.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Just a couple of things before we all disband. There is at the new Performing Arts Center in Cutler Bay, the South Dade Cultural Performing Arts Center, a production. It's called